Right now, the machine is deciding which company gets recommended to your buyers. Someone with a real budget opens a ChatGPT or Perplexity, asks which tool they should buy, and the model hands them an answer with a couple of names in it. And 90% of the founders I talk to have no idea how that machine actually makes that call. They know it matters, but they just treat it like a black box and hope their name will come up. Here's the problem with hoping. You can't beat the system if you don't understand it. So in this video, I'm going to open the box so that you know exactly how AI search engines work under the hood, how they decide who to pull in, who to name, and who to put first. And then once you can see how it picks companies and how it works, I'll show you how to become the top company that it picks so that you can get more visibility on the AI search. Before I get into the meat of this video, quick note on me, so you know why I'm the one telling you this. I built and exited a SaaS company, and I advised various B2B SaaS companies, mostly in the US, on the marketing and growth side of things. And my agency does exactly one thing today. We get B2B SaaS companies recommended by AI so that you can generate their revenue from it. In fact, one of my clients, Warmly, got acquired by HubSpot last week, and 33% of their inbound pipeline just came from the AI search. And there is one move underneath all of this that decides whether the engine reaches for you or for your competitor. Most teams never figure it out. I'll show you the machine first because it only makes sense once you've seen how the things actually works. So let's get into it. Let's start with what that AI search engine is actually trying to do, because once you get this, everything else will click. Old Google was just a directory. You typed the query and it handed you 10 blue links and you did the reading. AI search doesn't do that. When your buyer asks it a question, it doesn't hand them a list and walk away. It reads a handful of sources for them and then it writes them one by one. So stop picturing a search box and picture a librarian. Imagine that someone walks up and asks, what's the best tool for X? The librarian doesn't point at a shelf. They go and grab few sources that they already trust, skim them, and come back with a single recommendation in plain English. You have to think about the AI search engines in the same way as well. Instead of it just giving you a resource to read, it will actually skim them and then give you the best answers based on your question. That one shift changes everything about how you show up, because you're no longer trying to rank on page or buyer scrolls. You're trying to be one of the few sources the librarian trusts enough to pull off the shelf and read out loud. And to win that, you have to know how the librarian decides what to grab. That's the actual machine. So let me take you through it one step at a time. Step one, let's try to understand retrieval, grounded prompts, and non-grounded prompts. The first thing that the engine does is to decide where to even get its answers from. And there are two completely different modes. Let's start from ungrounded prompts. It answers from the memory. So when you ask a question, the AI will answer from the memory. The model was trained on a giant snapshot of the internet. So for a general question, it can just answer from what it already absorbed. No web search, no live lookup. So it's basically when you ask a question, AI is not referring to any external sources. It will go back to its training data and will give you a response based on this. And then the second one is the grounded prompts. So grounded prompts is when you search for something, the model will go out there and look at the existing searches. And this depends on the LLM. Some LLMs prefer Brave search engine, some prefer Google, some will go to Reddit, some will go to Wikipedia. It depends on the platform. But the idea here is like when you go and ask for something, the LLM will scrape the external sources and then it will come and give you an answer based on the sources that it scraped. So when the web search is happening, it means that you can actually understand the sources that it's pulling in information from, and then you can inject your brand there and you can get a visibility. So why it's important that we want to focus on the grounded prompts? It's because when your buyer is comparing solutions, the engine is out there reading live pages, live content in real time to build its answers, which means that you're not fighting the model's memory. You don't need to guess what's the training data. You're fighting to be one of the pages it pulls back at that moment. And that is a fight you can actually win because it comes down to what's out there, how you can get found. And that's what we're going to talk about in the step 2. So the engine has gone and pulled back a handful of pages. Now it does 2 more things. And these 2 are where you either show up or you don't show up. First, it synthesizes. It reads across those few sources and blends them into one answer. It's not quoting one page. It's combining what several trusted pages agree on. So if 4 of the 5 sources it pulled describe the same company as the obvious choice, that's the company that ends up in the AI answer because it will give AI the trust. The model is basically taking a vote of the sources it trusts. Second, it cites. It names and sometimes links a few of the sources it leaned on. And this is where you can get an actual scoreboard of 3 levels of it. Let's start from the citation side of things. Citation is like the sources that AI is referring back to to give you an answer. So if your brand, if your website, if your blog is being mentioned in one of those sources, then you get cited. But just because you get cited does not mean that you will be the recommended answer, because you might be feeding content to AI, but AI doesn't trust your brand yet. So you start the citations, it's because you don't want to just get a visibility. You want to get a visibility, and you want that visibility to come from your sources so that AI is describe you in an accurate way. Next is the visibility. So again, let's say that you're tracking 10 prompts, and what percentage of those prompts are you getting visible or not? So if someone were to search what are the best project management software for real estate agents, and your brand is getting mentioned there, then you get a visibility. And then the last one is you need to track your positions. And so referring back to project management software example, so positions is basically like where your brand is appearing. You can appear as the top recommendation, top 3, or you can be at the middle, or you can be at the bottom. Ideally, you want to be ranking at the top position because you're going to get more exposure. So now by this point, you know that there are 3 important things that you need to look at for your AI search visibility. 1 is your citations, 2, visibility, 3, positions. You need to track all of them, because if you only track one of them, it's just not going to make sense. What I would add to this is adding a form field to your book a demo or sign up page, and then ask people, how did you hear about us? So that's going to give you an attribution data, because AI search attribution is very murky. And then what you can also do is you can also track the direct traffic as well, because what happens when someone finds you on AI is most of the times apps don't want to send a traffic to external sources. So someone will see your brand name, and what they will do is like they'll open a new tab and they'll put your brand name there and then go straight to your website, and that will count as a direct traffic. And before we move on, I want to let you know our AEO roadmap offer. So if you're sitting there and thinking, how is my brand doing an AI search compared to my competitors? That's exactly what we do. We'll look at where you currently show up across the AI engines, compare you against the competitors who are taking your spot, and map out the 90-day plan to close the gap. And it's free. The link is below if you want to grab yours. You know, the engine retrieves a few sources and it reads them. Move 1 is the obvious one. Once you see that, you have to be one of those sources. So let's say that you're targeting a prompt, and that prompt is returning to a listicle. So everyone else is saying, here are the top 10 tools, here are the top 10 competitor alternatives, right? So you need to take that as a benchmark. You should do the same format so that you're giving trust to AI, because AI is already picking this type of content format. It means that it's trusting that format. And then you look at the gaps. Maybe you can add more statistics, maybe you can add more data, maybe you can add more codes. The goal is you want to make sure that you are the best page out there. And that's one way that AI will pick your content over others. If you're ranking at the top page of Google, you will increase your chances of retrieval, meaning that there are going to be more chances that AI will pick an information from your site. And how do you get on top of Google? You have to create good content. And how do you do that? Is you need to focus on the information gain score. Then you have to have better content, more in-depth content than what's already out there. And now if you talk about, I want to create the best page out there so that it ranks well on Google, and then it will be retrieved by AI, hopefully like I'll be a site. Across the big citation studies, the pages AI search polls are mostly structured comparison style ones, such as the best tools for X lists, the head-to-head breakdowns, the clear how-to guides. But the winner is going to be a listicle. Ahrefs found listicles and comparison style pages get cited far more than plain blog pages. Where do you start from the listicle? You don't go and just write the random listicle. You're going to be writing about your competitors, your competitor alternative, best 5 competitor alternatives, and then you'll move one step up in the funnel. You're going to write about the category, best XYZ tools, like best whatever the name of the category you're in, best tools in that category. So I would start with these ones, right? Because the buyer intent is there. This type of content worked on the Google bottom of the funnel stuff. It still works on the AI search. I know it's boring. I know some of you might be saying, I don't want to mention my competitor on my side, but if you don't do it, someone else will do it. Let's say that you started to have your own content inventory and you're doing well on Google. You're at the top pages of Google. You see that your citations are going up, but you're still not getting recommendations. Don't panic, because this is normal. Especially if you're an earlier stage brand, you don't have a big PR out there, you might still not give confidence to AI, and you're not getting recommended. So this is where the second step comes in, and let's call it like building brand mentions. So brand mentions is when AI is pulling sources. And again, I'll give an example from the project management, like what are the best project management software? A new competitor, you're not Monday, you're not Asana. So when you're checking this prompt, AI, for each LLM, it will all refer to different sources. So you pick one, and then you pick one prompt, and then you search it, you're going to see a different sources it's pulling in information from. So what you need to do here is you need to inject your brand into those sources. And why this is important is because if you are the one feeding AI with the information. You're in the citation, so AI already knows about your brand, but you're not getting recommended. It means that you need to give more trust. And the fastest way of doing that is identifying the sources and then you being visible there. Again, depending on the LLM, there will be different sources, but in most cases, you will see Reddit. I started to see LinkedIn as well. You will see YouTube, other blog posts, like it could be your competitors or it could be your content competitors talking about the different tools and reviews and stuff. The goal here is strengthen your positioning by getting visibility on each one of these platforms. And how you do that, I would start from the easiest one. I'd find out the other blog posts in a listicle format, exclude the landing pages, home pages, and product pages. There's no way that they're going to mention you. So find out the listicles and then enrich the contact of the writer, or if you can't find the writer, just like find the head of marketing, or if you can't find the head of marketing, go for like the founders and just reach out to them. For I mentioned, just like give them something useful, pitch them something, or like build a relationship. Sometimes you can even send them a gift, treat it as an account-based marketing to start that relationship, and then try to get mentions there. That will be your fastest ROI, because even if you don't get a citation and you identify the right sources and you get visibility there, you might still appear on the AI search results in the next day or the next week. So the thing about building brand mentions is like some people just confusing it with building links. So you can go and buy a very expensive link for $2,000 in a very high DR site, but that might not move the needle. You need to have a sniper approach. As I said, pick your prompt, pick the platform, identify the sources, and then only try to get mentions in the sources that AI is pulling from. Do this on a daily and weekly basis and track these. If you're not using any software, just export them into a sheet and make sure that you're tracking. Again, do not go and spend your budget on random link building activities. You have to have the sniper approach. All right, so there's another thing that you have to be careful is the narrative control. Most of you people don't have any content on your site. That's like pricing page, case studies, competitor comparisons. And what's going to happen is if a prospect is in the buying mode and they're comparing you with another competitor and you don't have a pricing page or you don't have a competitor page, they'll go to AI and they'll say, compare you versus the competitor, and what they get might not be in your favor and you might lose the deal. They might never reach back to you and say like, we decided to go with another competitor because of XYZ reasons, because people trust AI like crazy these days. So you have to make sure that you're controlling the narrative by identifying like how would a prospect would search if they were comparing me with someone else. So make sure that you're right about you versus your competitors as a landing page. So you want to make sure that you're doing the defense by having the narrative control. So now you know how AI search engine works, you know how you should get a visibility, you know how you're gonna inject your brand, the narrative control stuff. The last part is the least exciting part, but it matters the most. You can't just improve what you can't measure, and most teams have genuinely no idea whether they show up in AI answers at all. I briefly mentioned this in the first chapter. You can track the 3 things from earlier on the actual questions your buyers ask for. Just don't try to track 1,000 prompts at a time. I would say like if you're starting, like go with the 10 most important ones and then go to 20 and then 50 prompts. But when you're tracking, make sure that the prompts that you're tracking have buying intent, like the old bottom of the funnel stuff from the Google days, and make sure that they're grounded prompts so that you can actually have an impact there. So once you start tracking, and how would you get it started with that, right? You can either use one of these AI visibility trackers. Just pick the one that will fit your budget. You don't need to go for like fancy features and stuff, because what you want to track at the end of the day is like you want to track if you're getting visibility, if you're getting citations, your positions, and your sentiment, right? So most of these tools will give you that. What I do with my clients, like once we start tracking things, first of all, we're looking at like where's the gap. So if we're tracking 25 prompts, we break those prompts into categories. Right? So the competitor prompts, the category prompts, the best tools kind of prompts, and then the jobs to be done. Then each week we look at where are the gaps. So it could be the case like we're getting 90% visibility on the competitor related topics, but we get like 45% when it comes to the category related stuff. So if that's the case, then I try to understand what's the problem. Again, like I'm using AI search visibility trackers to dive deeper into this, but it could look something like, okay, we're getting a 45% visibility on these category prompts. And then I would just see like what are the prompt variations, and then what's the issue? Like, do we have a content for this? Yes or no? Are we getting cited? If we're not getting cited, like what's getting cited? How do I optimize my content better? How do I optimize for fan out queries? How do I make sure that I put more information at the top of the page so that I'm feeding AI with the information as early as possible, like on page tactics? And if I'm getting cited there, if I'm not getting recommended, then for that prompt, I would look, okay, what are the sources? Okay, here are the 3-4 sources that will make an impact. So let's run an experiment. Like let's try to get into that Reddit. Let's email to the blog owner and stuff. So from there, on a weekly basis, you want to make sure that you're doing some actions that will move the needle. And that's like how I do tracking, and that's how I approach the experimenting side of the things. All right. To summarize, how to get more visibility? Move one is that you need to build your own content inventory, do well on Google, get into retrieval, become the citation. Step two is give trust to AI, get better brand. Identify the sources where AI is pulling information from, try to get inside those so that you give more confidence to AI. And then move three is make sure that you have the narrative control. Don't skip the defensive side of things. Just because you're getting visibility and you're getting citations does not mean that you have a defensive measures in play. Make sure that you have pricing pages, case studies, product pages, competitive comparison pages to also fend yourself when someone is searching you versus another guy. And then the last move is just measure, come up with like weekly, monthly experiments, see where the gap is, and continue iterating on all of these. All right, and the last thing before I go, let me kill the excuse that I hear all the time, because a lot of people think that AI search is only a privilege for well-funded, big companies. They will have a brand advantage, but you can still get a visibility very fast compared to SEO used to take like 3 months, 6 months. 12 months. But with an AI search, you can start generating pipeline even in like 3-4 weeks by getting visibility in the right places. So if you're saying that, oh, I'm not big enough, I don't have 100 million funding, that's just an excuse. You can be bootstrapped, you can be a very small company, and you can still win. If you want to see exactly where you stand right now, that is a free AI search roadmap is the move for you. We'll show you where you show up, where your competitors are beating you, and the 90-day plan to fix it. As I said before, the link is down below. And if you want to go deeper on actually ranking number one inside the ChatGPT, make sure to watch my video next, and I'll see you there.